Every president in the world leads one country, but the president of France leads two. Yep, Emmanuel Macron rules France, but he also helps rule another totally independent country in Europe. And no, this isn't some forgotten overseas territory or a micro island in the Indian Ocean that France somehow still controls, even though colonialism is obviously supposed to be over. It's a real landlocked country that sits between France and Spain. That country is Andorra, the fifth smallest country in Europe, but also easily top 5 in confusing political arrangements. So get this, constitutionally, Andorra is led by 2 heads of state, and one of those 2 just happens to be the president of France. So how exactly did this happen? Why is the president of France, a powerful modern-day republic, also moonlighting as royalty in a totally separate but independent country that most people can't even find on a map? To figure this out, we've got to go way back in time. And I mean way, way back in time. The year is 1278, and the world is still figuring out how borders work. And power sharing is really more about who has the biggest word than anything else. Now, back then, the region now known as Andorra was caught in a tug-of-war between 2 local rulers in France and Spain. Now, after some very medieval negotiations, which were probably more about sword fights than boardroom negotiations and spreadsheets, the 2 rulers agreed to a power-sharing arrangement. Each of them would co-rule Andorra as princes to prevent war and to keep things civil. Now, fast forward a few centuries, and one of those 2 rulers eventually married into the French royal family. And so, just like that, his title passed into the hands of the King of France. But then, when France abolished the monarchy and then traded crowns for ballots and kings for presidents, someone had to inherit the job of co-ruling Andorra. And so, awkwardly, that title of co-prince of Andorra moved from whoever was the King of France to whoever was the president of France. And of course, today, that person is Emmanuel Macron. And so, to recap, today, the co-princes of Andorra are the president of France and the Bishop of Urgell in Spain. Now, this is a pretty funny balance of power because one of them is a modern-day European head of state with nuclear weapons, while the other is a Catholic bishop with, well, let's just say much less firepower. It's one of the strangest power duels in international politics and only comes second to a certain American president and his hairdo. But back to Andorra, what does this power-sharing arrangement actually mean in reality? Does Emmanuel Macron have a throne stashed somewhere in the country? Does he pop over to Andorra to pass royal decrees? Or does he rule France by day and rule Andorra by night? Well, not quite. The truth is, in modern times, the role of co-prince is mostly ceremonial. Now, this means Emmanuel Macron doesn't have to spend his weekends in Andorra, even though he is technically a head of state there. And Andorra, for its part, is totally fine with this arrangement. It's a peaceful, prosperous microstate with a population of about 80,000 people. It's known for its skiing, it's known for duty-free shopping, and of course, it's known for this bizarre power-sharing constitutional setup. Because regardless of what anybody thinks of this, the setup of having co-princes and 2 heads of states was baked right into the country's constitution in 1993. And most Andorrans appear pretty chill about sharing their head of state with France. And that's probably because Macron isn't exactly wielding absolute power in the country. He can't exactly roll into town and change laws even if he wanted to. The truth is, his role is limited, and the actual job of governing Andorra is handled by the country's own parliament and prime minister. But still, it's pretty wild that in the 21st century, one of the most powerful elected leaders in the world is also casually royalty in another totally separate country. And so it turns out that winning an election to become the president of France also means becoming the co-prince of another separate country, which is basically getting 2 jobs for the price of 1. Now, as weird as that is, if you want to learn more about other examples of France having weird geopolitical relationships, then watch this video about how it has the largest time zone in the world, despite being smaller than Texas. See you in the next one.